Hello everybody, my name is Steven Woodson, and you're watching Nerd Chat. Alright, I know it's been quite a while since I've been back, so I'm just going to give you a brief memory of what I had recently done. The last thing I remember me talking about was the timeline of Metroid and the history of Metroid games in general. So this time, sorry it took me so long, but I got all caught up in trying to prepare for these few episodes that I just got all backed up with personal stuff, and I've been trying to keep you all in the loop. So here I am, just letting you guys know. Alright, so today's episode is about the official Zelda timeline. Those of you who don't know, Nintendo got a little sick and tired of seeing a whole bunch of getting a bunch of fan mail saying we need an official Zelda timeline. It's not fair that you're making so many games and not telling us the whole story, yada yada yada. So Nintendo finally decided to create Hyrule Historia with the official Zelda timeline. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a breakdown of what exactly the Zelda timeline is, where all the games as of Hyrule Historia was released, and all the different things in between the games. So, here we go. And a bit of a warning. I'm going to try to stay away from spoilers. Some games I don't know very well. That's why I had to do some research on them. So don't worry if I get a detail wrong, just let me know in the comments. I'll look at it later and we'll see what happens then. Anyway, a bit of a breakdown. This episode is going to be about the first quarter of the timeline. What I mean the first quarter? Well, I'll get into that near the end of this video. So here we go. Obviously, the timeline starts at the creation of the Zelda world, which is the creation story. Their creation story goes along the lines of the three goddesses, Din, Nehru, and Fiora. Or Feora, I think. I can't remember the last one's name. They go around the world and they create it based on their power. I don't know exactly what each one created. For that, you would just go play Ocarina of Time. They tell all throughout the first half of the game. So there you go. But of course, after that, after the creation era comes the first game in the timeline, which is Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword falls into the era of the goddess Hylia. The goddess Hylia pretty much created all of the Hyruleans that we know of today as Hyruleans. Although there was a great battle. And that's what Skyward Sword's about. It's about, at the first part of the game, it tells about this great battle that happened. The great battle that pretty much destroyed Hylia. And what you're left to do in Skyward Sword is you're running around trying to figure out what happened in the past to help you stop what's happening in the future. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. Zelda Dungeon has a very good video series on Skyward Sword. You could check other places, other YouTubers for Let's Plays on Skyward Sword, or go to your local video game store. I got mine from the Exchange, which is a video game and pretty much a thrift store for comic books, movies, games, music, videos, whatever. After Skyward Sword, after the Great Battle, Goddess Hylia lifted up a chunk of the land to the sky, and that became the world known as Skyloft. Skyloft being the place where all of the people lived. And she created a cloud barrier to seal away all the evil on the surface world, leaving the people in a paradise. But, just like all paradises, they don't last forever. At least not man-made ones. They don't last forever. And eventually, evil sunk back in. That's what the game's about. It's about that evil that is pushing its way into the lives of the Skyloft, the lives of Skyloft. And the next era comes in, the Sky Era. The Sky Era is also within Skyward Sword. And Skyward Sword just eases us into that transition from the people living in the sky to the people living on the ground now. And that comes to the next era, the era of chaos. The era of chaos and prosperity. These is two different separate. According to Hyrule Historia's Zelda timeline, these eras are separate. I just condensed them together because there's not much that happens in this era. What happens is that the Sacred Realm is sealed away. Why was it sealed away? Well, it was sealed away for the safety and the protection of the people and all of the monsters that may still be around. They want to, at this particular point, they want to resurrect their master. So yeah. During this time, the Hyrule Kingdom is just about ready to be established, and at this particular point, the Temple of Time is being constructed. One of the sages from Ocarina of Time builds the Temple of Light to house the Triforce. The royal family of Hyrule sets themselves up as the protectors of the Triforce, and they build their castle near the Temple of Time. But years later, when a time of peace happens, before the next game in the series happens, there was a great battle. This great battle just so happened to have been with a great evil force that was locked inside a chest. I don't know if the next game in the series deals with that, because I've never played it myself, but that is Minish Cap. Minish Cap takes place a few years after this war with the hero of men. This hero of men was given a blade from this game's unique race known as the Picori, or Minich. The Picori are what... Well, first of all, who are the Picori? The Picori are a race of... There's a tiny race in Hyrule that is unique to, of course, Minich Cap. They also go by, well, like I said before, Minich. They created the Picori blade for the hero of men. They also gave him the Light Force. The Light Force is just simply the life force of all living organisms around him. This, along with the Picori blade, allowed him to stop and seal away the evil that was controlling the whole world. So we get into this whole idea of there's no evil, and the next game starts and they have a celebration. They have a celebration of the anniversary of the Picori coming to Hyrule. And your new character, Link, is actually the second generation of this royal blacksmith. This royal blacksmith was to create a blade for the King of Hyrule to present to the hero of this festival. Although the winner of the tournament that is held every year just so happened to be the evil being within for this game. His name was Vandy, or I guess that's how you pronounce it. Vati? I don't know. It's spelled V-A-A-T-I, so I don't know. Vati destroys the Picori blade so that the same thing doesn't happen to him. Although he also kidnaps, of course, the Zelda, pretty much, I believe. I have notes here. Yeah. So what you're left to do is you're left to just try to fix the Picori blade so you can stop batting. Pretty much. But what isn't told, what isn't really well known is the Picori blade actually becomes the Four Sword at the end of this game, and the Four Sword is used to seal Vati within it, and thus ending Minich Cap. And that's pretty much when the next game in the series kicks in. The next game in the series is Four Sword. A few years later, Link and Zelda go to the sanctuary where the Four Sword is being held, and Link pulls the Four Sword. Unfortunately, not knowing the legend, since this is a different Link, frees Vati, and Vati kidnaps Zelda. Pulling the Four Sword causes Link to split into four people: green, blue, red, and purple. I don't know why purple, but it doesn't make sense. Anyway, now being four people, he can now do the job that not a single Link can do. Although now he has to work together with the other parts of his mind that are now represented as his different characters and yada yada yada. And it's just really not a pleasant thing. to think about. He travels around the country. He travels around the Hyrule, fighting monsters, beating bad guys, finally getting up to Vaddie and destroying that, sending Vaddie once again back into the Four Swords. And the day is saved. Or is it? We'll be getting to that later. But that kicks right back in to what I know really well. This starts the era of the Hero of Time. Now, before I get into this, this is a really well-known game, and you can go ahead and skip this if you want. Just skip a couple of minutes or so. But if you want to go ahead and hear me out, then just go ahead. But before before Ocarina of Time started, there was a unification war that was hinted to us in the game. And I'm not going to tell you where because that's a bit of a spoiler in case you haven't played the game. But what the Unification War is that it is pretty much a civil war of all the races fighting each other. The Gerudos, the Zoras, the Deku, and the Gorons. All of them are fighting together, trying to make peace with each other. But what isn't told to us is how long the fighting started, how long the war was, and when it ended. But when it finally did end, the relations between the Zoras and the Gorons were okay. There was a bit of a thin line between friend and foe as you progress through the game and find this out yourself. But what isn't told to us until the second half of the game is that Link is actually that Link was actually a direct cause of this war ending. So yeah, I'm not going to tell you anymore because it's a bit of a spoiler. It's a bit of a major spoiler to it, and I'm trying to avoid any and all spoilers. And that pretty much ends the first quarter of the timeline. Now, the reason why I said the first quarter of the timeline is this. The timeline is split into 3 parts. One of them being kind of not accepted. It is the timeline. It is the point to where it is the It is a timeline to where it is called The Hero is Defeated. The only reason I can think of for there being a Hero is Defeated timeline is because it was a direct cause of the Hero of Time being defeated because he traveled around. Because throughout Ocarina of Time you're traveling from the past to the from the past to the future so much that you're that with the Hero of Time being defeated, it caused a split in time that caused a whole bunch of chaotic things to happen, as you'll see in the next episode. I'm actually going to cover that in the next episode. But if you are successful in completing the game, Zelda sends Link back in time to stop herself from ever doing this in the first place, which creates another split in time. But there's also another split in time where time went on, and we see what happens then. Then we see what happens after that. So that's it for this episode. This is running a bit long. I'm going to see if I can get this all into one video. I'm not exactly sure. If not, then I'll just play it. Then I'll just split it into 2 episodes, and then there you go. But that's all for today's episode. Join me for the next episode where I talk about the Hero is Defeated timeline. See you guys then.